Welcome to Left, Right, and You with Tim Elenz and Paul Edwards. They're talking current events, politics, local, state, and federal. Now here's Tim Elenz and Paul Edwards and Left, Right, and You.
Chuck, you got that, Chuck? Can you hear me now?
Can
you hear me now?
I can hear you now, Mr. Elenz.
Do you ever wonder who checks out cell phones when they walk around to see if they fit this area, if this is a blackout zone? Do they call and they go, "Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?"
I just walk around saying that into my cell phone without it even on.
So how are you? What's going on? You want to talk about Charlie Sheen?
I love Charlie Sheen, man.
I think we ought to write a letter and see if we can get a screen test for his position.
I love Charlie Sheen.
I don't know if I could be any wackier than he is, though. The Nile isn't a river in the Nile? I mean,
in Egypt, yeah. And the Panama Canal does not run through Egypt.
I think you're going to find him dead.
You think?
Yeah, I do. I think they're going to find him dead.
When they find him dead, he will be smiling.
I recall
he is going to have the biggest smile.
I recall I was involved with this non-for-profit years ago, and there was this guy that was running the place, and he came into the board meeting, and I was on the board, and he came in and he said to everybody he resigns. And we were all looking at him like, "We don't want you to resign. We didn't understand it." And he was just like in another world. He said, "No, I've had it. I'm done with you people. I'm out of here. I don't want to be any part of this anymore." We accepted his resignation. The next day he called me. He goes, "What happened yesterday?" I said, "You resigned. I mean, you ripped us all up, and you said I'm out of here." He said, "Well, I don't want to resign. Can I withdraw my resignation?" And I think that's what you're going to see with this guy. This is crazy.
Yeah, he is. But I told you, I don't know if I've ever said it on the air, but the success of 2.5 Men is that every man really wants to be Charlie Harper, but we all got a little Allen in us from time to time. I know you say you have no Allen in you.
You have more Allen than both of us. Yes.
But you've got every once in a while you've got a little Allen. Think about even if it's just dealing.
On something.
What was it?
I am on a drug. It's called Charlie Sheen. It's not available because if you try it once, you will die. Your face will melt off and your children will weep over your exploded body. Too much.
Yeah. But really, I mean, think about it. You've got a little Allen in you when it comes to dealing with your kids from time to time. Everyone has a little Allen in them from time to time.
I'm sitting there writing a check to my daughter, and she starts telling me what the check's really for, and I just rip up the check. Yeah, I guess from that standpoint I do. But yeah,
Well, and see, Allen's check would just bounce. So.
It's interesting.
But you know what? I like the fact that he's gone on the offensive now. That he showed up for work. They shut it down.
Okay.
Well, he tried to show up, and so he's suing them because they're not going to pay him while they shut the show down. And he said, "Hey, so what if I have this stuff going on the outside? You know, when I'm at work, I do the job and I hit my marks and I hit my lines, and who cares?"
I saw the last episode with him, and it was recorded. He looked terrible.
Yeah.
He looked like he aged about 10 years. Jeff's on the phone.
Hello, Jeff.
Hi, Jeff.
Hey, can you say wasted?
How many times
Charlie
fast?
Oh man, I tell you what, that poor guy. I don't know what to say. You know, he's flipped out. I think somebody needs to have a serious.
Well, they have. They've had many serious talks.
Jeff, I've got to be honest with you. If I made $1.2 million, $1.8 million, heck, if I made if I made $500,000 24 times a year like Charlie Sheen does for his episodes, yeah, I think I'd be hanging. I'd be hanging with Charlie Sheen. There's a reason I don't make that much money. Besides, I'm an idiot. But
I grew up close to Hollywood. I call it Holly Weird because it is kind of.
Well, that explains a lot, Jeff. Thank you.
Yeah.
that explains a lot. A lot of questions Paul and I have just been answered. But go ahead. Thank you.
Oh, shut up.
We can't shut up. It's a radio talk show. We just can't look pretty. It's not TV. Oh, it is TV.
We could pull
24.3.
We could start eating watermelon and just sit on stage for 10 minutes eating watermelon.
Yeah, but you know the poor guy. It's the male version of Lindsay Lohan. But you know the problem is that the drugs have gotten him. And here's my problem. Everybody wants to legalize all these drugs. And
yeah,
well, I don't mind. I'm going to go, say the pot situation. If you want to legalize grass, I don't have a problem with it. The problem I have is who's going to pay for the after effects?
You already do.
That's the problem.
Well,
Are you going to start charging people for driving under the influence?
No. You know what we do? We have a pay-per-view station, and we put them all in a room, and we charge $49.95 an episode to watch them through a glass bowl and go, wow, look at that guy over there.
Hosted by Robert Downey Jr.
Yes,
all right. Now, Jeff, you've commented on his drug use. How do you feel about his use of porn actresses?
Well, I don't care what he does. It's in his business. If he wants to do it, what he does behind his closed doors, I don't really care.
Hey, how about that chick that
It's what it comes out. Did
you see the one porn star went in the kitchen, in the bathroom with him, and she had 2.5 minutes sex with him, and he wrote her a check for $30,000, and they interviewed her, and she said, I cashed a check immediately. She left there, and she went and cashed.
Well, whatever floats his boat. That's the way I look at it. But anyway, I want to get into some more serious.
Yeah, what do you want to talk about? Because we got to go. We got some things we got to talk about here. So what's up?
Well, I want to discuss one thing, and I know everybody's probably. I don't know if you guys are going to go here, but the crisis up north.
In Alaska, the oil crisis.
No. Wisconsin. I think.
I thought you were about the polar bears.
On this.
Hey, Jeff, real quick before you get into that, do you know what you call a beautiful woman in Green Bay?
What?
A tourist. But continue.
Oh, jeez. It must be the cheesehead coming out of you.
I'm a Bear fan. What can I tell you? But go ahead. Wisconsin, which we were going to talk about today. So what's your thought?
No, I just, to me, it gets under my skin. I'm not union. I used to be union years ago. But what's the difference between what I do or you guys do and the union guys do? If you do it right, you do it smart, you do exactly like they do, the only difference is you got a union tag on you. And it kind of pisses me off because, I'm busting my chops every day to make a living. And the first thing I get told from my union buddies, well, you got to get unionized. Well, I've been unionized, but the problem is I'm 54 years old, for Christ's sake. I've been to every union in the state trying to get a job. And they look at me and they laugh. They literally laughed at me. And they said, we're looking for kids that are out of high school. We want to do the young generation. And my neighbor, who across the street happens to be a union electrician, said he's had to lay all his senior guys off to hire new guys that are for part-time.
Okay.
That don't have any experience. They go from a journeyman to an apprentice because they don't want to spend the money. And they're looking at, guess what, the pensions. See, this is the problem what I'm talking about.
Jeff, I think you're making a point that I think a lot of people who aren't in unions try to make, and that is that although we see certain value in unions, to be very honest, at a certain point they start to price the experienced worker out of the workforce.
Guys, wait, guys, let me weigh in on this, okay? I think there's a difference between a union in the private sector and a union in the public sector. And I think that the big thing that people are having an issue with is that when you work in the public sector, your benefits are significantly higher than your brothers or your sisters, so I'm politically correct, in the private sector. I mean,
yeah, you're right.
And I mean, if you're a carpenter and you're working for the state or you're working for the city, you're making like 25% more in comp and fringe than you are for a guy working for a private contractor. And that's the problem with the unions.
But you're right. In the public sector, that's accurate. But when you look at the big three automakers, who everyone says, oh, it's bad management that caused the decline of it, and I forget the exact numbers, but I want to say it's something like for a union worker in the big three, it's like they have $80 an hour invested into every employee. Where you go to the other companies that are here in the United States, the Hondas, the Toyotas, they're down around $40 or $50 per FTE fully loaded. And why? Because the unions push. They collectively, there's collective bargaining, and then there's collective extortion. And it's almost like right now it's gone beyond the balance. There needs to be a balance where both the employer or the government and the worker have some balance to it, but it seems to have gone from one extreme to the next.
But what you're seeing is, I cited that thing from that crazy German guy, and that's what you're seeing with these things. That people just keep throwing stuff out there. The unions throw out their rhetoric. Some of it sticks. The state throws it out. It sticks. And all of a sudden, people are starting to believe it because they heard it on the news, and that's unfortunate. People are not taking the time to realize what's really going on.
No. Every time you guys, here's the thing, and I understand I can get carried away with this, but the bottom line is everybody else has to deal with the situation. They have to take it in the shorts. The union guys always complain they don't make enough money. Every time I turn around, they're cutting this and cutting that. Well, they're not. My wife happens to have a pension for 33 years, and she's losing it all the time because her company doesn't want to spend the money, and it's a big company. It's one of the biggest in the state. The problem that I see is everybody's retiring at once, and everything, not just unions, it's everything. And nobody's got the funds to back it up, and that's the problem.
Yeah.
With this thing in union up north, that's what the problem is. Now, I don't agree with what the guy is doing over there as far as not being able to bargain with them. I think he needs to. But here, again, it goes back to this. If we give them the idea they can come back and do bargaining and guaranteed bargain, the problem is it's always been, okay, we'll bargain with the union, but the union always seems to get its way. Somebody brought this up. 90% of the time, the union gets its way.
All right.
Okay.
And to me, it's, hey, if the rest of us have to suffer, I don't care which union or even non-union people, it's time to start getting smart with your money. I mean, I'm out there busting my chop. I'm working 3 jobs to stay afloat. I'm doing it. What about all these people that are sucking up the funds doing absolutely nothing?
Okay, all right, Jeff, good. Jeff, great. Thank you for calling. Appreciate it.
All right, take care, buddy.
Take care, Jeff. Bye-bye.
So what is your take on the whole situation up in Wisconsin? And when I say what's your take on the situation, are you feeling like the governor? Well, let me ask you this. I was all over on the health care bill that if the government and if our legislatures would have been listening to the people, health care never would have passed. And I was saying, hey, we need to be responsive. So now you've got a governor who ran under the idea of shoring up the budget, being fiscally responsible. The legislature, both the House and the Senate in Wisconsin, turned from Democrat to Republican, basically running on this. Do you feel that the government up there, the legislators and the governor, are actually acting on the will of the people, or are they ignoring the people? Because if more people, and as much as I don't like the unions, if more people think that the governor should cave, he's supposed to be responsive to the people. I think right now what you're seeing is a loud minority with the unions. What are your thoughts from that regard?
It goes back to the quote last week. You keep throwing it out. You make up a lie. You throw it out there long enough. The problem is that once you give somebody something, you can't take it away. I mean, it's even with a relationship. If you decide in your household that you're going to do this as a role in your house, and then you try to take it away, or you can't. And what the governor did is the governor campaigned for 8 years as he was a county official in Milwaukee, and he said, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. Well, nobody heard him. Nobody heard him outside of Milwaukee, obviously. And then he came in and he tried to take something away, and everybody's going, oh, look what he's doing. This is terrible. This is terrible. I'm working on a couple. I consultant. I do benefits, and I'm working on a couple of villages right now. And one in particular, I mean, the employee pays 10% of the healthcare costs for them or their family. They had 88% of their workforce, a couple hundred people, are taking family coverage on the medical.
Wow.
Well, it's unheard of. I mean, it's just absolutely unheard of. So, they've hired me in to come in and look at this, and that's the first thing that I'm going to say to them. Hey, I'd like to tell you as an insurance broker or as an insurance consultant, I'm going to go on and get you other quotes from other carriers. The first thing you got to do is take away the matches, basically. And this is what's going on with these municipal. It doesn't make any sense. In this particular 2 villages that I'm working with, these other people have coverage elsewhere, but they're double dipping basically. It's got to stop. I don't think taxpayers should pay premiums. I just don't believe taxpayers should pay premiums. You used to go to work for when you and I were growing up, and that wasn't that long ago. You went to work for government or you went to work for a non-for-profit, and you took a little bit less pay. And when you took a little bit less pay, you got better benefits. Now you get equal or better pay than your counterparts in the private industry, and you get, twice as better benefits.
And that's because these groups have collectively bargained for it. And that's where I'm going to ask you, have they really, they always say, is management negotiating in good faith? Have the workers actually been negotiating in good faith, or have they been extorting the companies.
Paul, if your company, and you've got a pretty decent sized company, if your people organized a union today and they went union, are you going to actually sit down and go have coffee with the business agent around the corner? No,
I will shut my doors and I will reopen somewhere else in another state. No, that's what I would do.
No, but the point being is that the governor of a state has no business taking money from a union.
Right.
Like our governor, Pat Quinn, takes money. He has no business taking. FDR said it. You mentioned Jimmy Carter before that. I watched O'Reilly. I saw O'Reilly say that. I don't believe everything anybody was saying.
Right.
I couldn't find it.
Right.
I couldn't find it. But Jimmy Carter had said that there shouldn't be collective bargaining in the public system.
Right.
It's a complete conflict.
Yeah. And 98% of the money that unions donate to political campaigns are to Democrats. So it's sort of funny when people sit there and say, "Oh, look, big business."
It wouldn't make it right if they were making it to Republicans.
Well, but my point though is there's so much. There's an old saying, "What's good for the goose is good for the gander," and it seems like there's so much finger pointing from both sides, where when it's not working out in their favor, they point it out. For instance, the Republicans were the party of no. Well, you have the Democrats in Wisconsin hiding out in Illinois so that there's not a quorum to vote. Is that a bigger party of no? But when it's good for their benefit, then they're not going to bring it up. And I'm not saying that it's just the Democrats or just the, no, this is, at what point do we actually sit down and, and I'm going to bring up Rush Limbaugh here. One of the more intelligent things I've heard is that we've got to stop compromising and we've got to start working from common ground. And that is, you know what? There's got to be, let's say there's, in this bill that the governor wants to push in Wisconsin, there's got to be things in there that Democrats agree with. And maybe we start there and get that portion done and then debate the rest.
I got to read you an email I got from my big brother. I have a surrogate big brother. He lives in Detroit, and him and I had quick coffee yesterday. Pat, if you're out there listening, he writes me. He says, the citizens of Chicago or Wisconsin should be thanking their governor. He has stimulated the hospitality industry in hotels and restaurants in Madison over the last 10 days.
And Rockford, Illinois as well. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Pat. Paul, we get off base, and this is exactly what's happened. There is no labor abuse of the workers in Wisconsin. We are not trying to cut their pay. We're not trying to get them to do things that the rest of the world doesn't do. The private industry is laying people off. The private industry is making them pay more for their health care. I have a friend of mine, Danny, who just helped me do my deck in my house. He's a truck driver. He's been a truck driver for 20 years. He's a great guy. As soon as the leaves start falling, you know what? He's going on unemployment. He's got to pay his medical insurance. He's got to pay COBRA for 3 or 4 months out of the year. When we were doing the deck, he says, Timmy, you know what? I got to work the overtime on the weekends. I got to get my quarters in. I got to get my hours in. You don't do that in the state. The state, they don't go down. They don't have labor issues about working more than 40 hours a week and not getting the overtime. They're not getting abused. 8% for your health care cost? 8% you're going to pay for your health care costs? So what happens is, and we're doing it too, is we're getting off subject. The subject is the governor came in and got the unions to agree to pay more. Instead of 8%, they're going to pay 12% for their health care. And he took away the collective bargaining. And we were talking about it in the kitchen. And our producer and I have a history because we were in the public sector.
Right.
It's like, you're a laborer and you're working at Milwaukee Zoo, and you're a garbage man and you're working at Milwaukee Zoo, and the collective bargaining agreement says the hours are 8 to 4:30. Well, maybe there's a really good reason why you can't work 8 to 4:30. Maybe there's busloads of kids and you can't be collecting the garbage, so you want to start at 6. Well, we should have to pay you time and a half to work from 6 to 8 because the collective bargaining agreement, and that's what I think about. Mm-hmm. Or because Pulaski Day happens to be a holiday, which it is a state holiday, you should get time and a half because the kids are off school and they're in the zoo and we have to have people working at the zoo. And those are the kinds of things that I just don't think people understand. Hey, you know what?
You're right.
I'm sorry. 847-931-1410. If there's anybody else out there. We had that lady, I think it was Lori, they called last week or 2 weeks ago. We talked about if anybody's out there who's got a comment, please call.
Yeah,
Paul.
Yeah. What I hear you saying is you're breaking down all these, parts of what the the unionized employee is able to negotiate, that they've negotiated really with the government or even in the private sector, that a normal employee who is not with a union could not have negotiated for themselves.
See, I'm sorry. Let me stop you. I think you're getting, just again, and I do it too. I think you're getting off base. The issue is collective bargaining. So if there's 30 unions in the state of Wisconsin, can the 30 unions get together and insist on the same perks together? Mm-hmm. I think that's what. Again, I'm not going to try to correct you, mm-hmm. but I think that's what we're talking about. So, as an example, the zoo's open on Pulaski Day. We need to have workers on Pulaski Day. The teachers are off, which means the kids are coming to the zoo. Should we have to pay time and a half to the people in the zoo because it's Pulaski Day?
Well, no, I'm
sorry.
I'm with you, and I think what I'm saying to you is that what we're talking about here is the fact that these government unions or these unions are getting these great deals and working things out that really we're overpaying for a service. The bottom line is the taxpayers are the ones paying those people, and we're overpaying for a service due to very strong collective bargaining agreements. And, I do recall that we had a president by the name of Ronald Reagan who, when the air traffic controllers, I'm going to say, attempted to collectively bargain, he put his foot down and said, no, you need to go to work and you need to do this.
I think what happened with the Ronald Reagan, and,
mm-hmm.
and maybe I'm wrong, somebody could correct me, mm-hmm. is they had a no strike clause, mm-hmm. and they went on strike.
Right.
And he told them, you got 72 hours.
Right.
You know what really bothers me, and you brought that up, and it appears that like even George Bush told Iraq, you got 72 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Get out.
Yeah.
We're coming there.
Yeah.
Reagan told him, you got 72 hours, go back to work. It seems for some reason or another that strong leaders give warning to people.
Yeah, but what I'm also saying is you look at what this governor is saying is, you know what? We're just not going to bargain with you anymore.
He gave warnings.
And we're deciding from our end that we've bargained and we've bargained away our future, and we're not bargaining with you anymore. And it's the right thing to do. I guess what I was hearing you say and what I'm saying, it's really the same thing, maybe in two different ways, is that, to a certain degree, the unions, and I know there's probably a bunch of union guys who sit there and think I'm anti-union, and I'm really not, but at a certain point, you're getting so much, but it's once again, it always comes down to this, like you and I talk about the healthcare. Fine. Do whatever you want with healthcare. Do whatever you want with the unions. How are we going to pay for it? Oh, there's not enough money to pay for it? Well, gee, then we can't do it. And you said it's hard to take something back? Well, you know what? If I have 5 kids, I got 4 kids, and they're all on an allowance of $20 a week, and I've given them that. We've negotiated. I'm giving them $20 a week. Well, Daddy loses his job. Guess what? There's no money to give you your $20 a week. And that's where we're at though. But that's where we're at with a lot of this government stuff, a lot of these programs.
Well,
there's not money to pay for it anymore. It's not like the money's sitting there.
I'm sorry, Dave.
That's all right. No, we have a caller
who
wants to take the union side.
Please do. Jump.
Who
we got here?
We've got Dan. Dan's on
the
line.
Dan.
Hi, Dan. Thanks for calling Left, Right, and You.
Hey, gentlemen. How you doing?
Good, Dan. What's up?
Well, I wanted to take the union side of things, but kind of on a different take than everybody else does.
Okay.
I've mentioned this before on another show, but if we take a look at where a lot of these problems came from, and we wouldn't be considering any of this if it weren't for the general situation with the economy and all. I mean, if everybody still had their jobs and everything was going along fine, there wouldn't be this problem. But since we had this, downturn in the economy, you have a lot of people unemployed, obviously there is an effect. But, it wasn't the union membership that caused this downturn in the economy and a lot of other things. It has been for some time the undue influence of a select few who have been making money hand over fist. Why are we focusing so much on the workers in Wisconsin when no one is really focusing on take a look at all of these bank executives who took this country right into the dumper with their derivatives and mortgage, all these different things that they were making money hand over fist on, and they drove the economy right into the dumper. Why aren't we concentrating our efforts on
Dan, I'm gonna tell you that I've heard that exact argument, but what you're saying is that people are blaming the unions. No one is blaming the union. There's this thing that the president likes to say, we need to have shared sacrifice. Well, how come shared sacrifice doesn't apply to the unions? And how come the shared sacrifice doesn't apply to Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, who were most of the legislators who let this stuff happen with the derivatives, let it happen with the banks? We're all tied at the hip to Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac. So when we come out with a big new Consumer Financial Protection Bureau that's going to protect all the people, and the group that caused the financial downfall, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, aren't even mentioned in it. And everybody else is getting dragged into it. So I think your point is both valid and invalid, because no one is saying it's the workers' fault, but we're saying everybody has. Let me finish. Everyone has to pitch in. Number one, and number two, when the government, our elected officials, had the chance to take a swipe at the real culprits, we let them off the hook. Your elected officials let them off the hook.
Yeah, we got to go to break. We're getting our sign here that we got to go to break.
Oh, I wanted to put something else on.
Can you call back?
Hang on and come on after break, Dan.
Thanks, Dan.
I'll give you a call back in a couple minutes.
Thank you.
Thanks.